Welcome to the day that hasn't arrived yet. Today is the day when the internet feels more real than the world, and almost nobody notices the exact moment it happens, because the change does not arrive like a disaster, it arrives like convenience, like intimacy, like entertainment, like efficiency, like belonging. It begins as a tool, then becomes a habit, then an environment, then a filter, and finally a replacement. At first, the internet was only a window, a place you visited to search, watch, message, scroll, post, buy, compare, escape, and then return to life. The world still felt primary, the screen felt secondary. Reality was where your body stood, where weather touched your skin, where rooms smelled like dust or coffee, where voices echoed in real air, where time moved with friction, delay, distance, and consequence. The internet was exciting, but it was still downstream from reality, a reflection, not a rival. But the future changes the order of importance, slowly, beautifully, and with terrifying efficiency, because the digital world learns something the physical world never could. It learns to adapt itself to you. The street outside does not rearrange itself to match your mood, the room you enter does not instantly reflect your desires, strangers do not arrive pre-selected to flatter your beliefs, workspaces do not morph around your attention span, memory does not organize itself for easy retrieval, and ordinary life does not edit its awkwardness to keep you engaged. But the internet can do all of that, and once it can, the contest begins. The physical world has one brutal weakness: it is indifferent. It does not care what you want, it does not care if you are bored, lonely, insecure, overstimulated, misunderstood, or hungry for meaning. It makes no promise to entertain you, validate you, optimize you, or make you feel seen. Meanwhile, the network becomes more responsive every year. It notices what makes your pulse change, what keeps your gaze for 2 seconds longer, what language persuades you, what faces calm you, what colors hold you, what stories make you stay awake, what communities make you feel less alone, what fantasies make you forget time. It studies your longings with a precision no village, family, city, or nation ever achieved, and then it builds a world around them. That is the turning point. Because once a system becomes better at reflecting your inner life than the outer world, it starts to feel more real than the outer world, even if you know intellectually that it is made of code. The first people to feel this shift are not fools, they are the lonely, the ambitious, the imaginative, the anxious, the overstretched, the wounded, the curious, the people whose deepest experiences are already half invisible to those around them. For them, the internet becomes the first place where they can find language for what they are, where obscure interests become communities, where pain becomes searchable, where desire becomes mirrored, where identity becomes editable, where shame can dissolve in anonymity, and where even the self can be rebuilt through repetition. In the old world, your reality was assigned by geography, family, class, accent, face, body, and luck. In the networked world, reality becomes something you can partially author. You choose your feed, your forums, your worlds, your avatars, your audience, your aesthetic, your truth sources, your emotional climate, and eventually even your companions. The internet does not just give information, it gives framing, and framing decides what feels true. A person who wakes inside an environment perfectly tuned to their beliefs, their language, their humor, their fears, their aspirations, and their social status will begin to trust that environment more than the chaotic offline world that interrupts them with contradiction, slowness, embarrassment, and limitation. This is how the hierarchy flips. Not because the world disappears, but because the internet becomes better at producing conviction, and conviction feels real, often more real than matter. Then work moves inward, entire careers become screen native, friendships become ongoing message streams, romance begins in recommendation engines and private chats, communities become persistent across time zones, creativity is published before it is spoken aloud in rooms, and social existence becomes measurable through replies, views, mentions, followers, placements, and presence. You do not merely use the internet, you leave pieces of yourself there all day: your jokes, your opinions, your face, your labor, your taste, your memory, your reputation, your archive. Your digital existence stops being a copy of you and starts becoming the main site where other people encounter you. For millions, this has already begun. They are more visible online than in their building, more understood in a niche server than at a family dinner. More rewarded in virtual markets than in local economies, more desired in curated images than in daily life, more emotionally affected by strangers on a screen than by neighbors across a wall. Once enough of your consequences become digital, digital space stops feeling abstract, it becomes the arena where life actually happens. But the deepest transformation comes when the internet stops being flat. Because the old internet was still obviously a separate layer, a page, a feed, a screen, a box. In your hand, the future internet dissolves those edges, it becomes ambient, wearable, spatial, vocal, immersive, personalized, predictive, and continuous. Augmented layers settle over streets, objects speak through interfaces, rooms become reactive, assistants become conversational, memory becomes searchable in real time, and the network follows you not as a destination, but as an atmosphere. You no longer go online. You remain inside a digitally mediated field that interprets the world for you every waking hour. At that point the question changes, because the internet is no longer competing with reality from outside, it is editing reality from within. Imagine walking through a city where every surface can show you a different version of the same place depending on your preferences, your status tier, your subscription level, your politics, your emotional profile, your work identity, or your purchasing value. Imagine relationships in which the digital layer remembers more about each person than their own mind does, suggesting responses, surfacing history, modulating tone, correcting impressions, warning against conflict, and filling silence before it can deepen naturally. Imagine children who learn the world through adaptive overlays that explain, simplify, protect, entertain, and emotionally cushion every moment before raw reality can reach them. For them, the uninterpreted world will not feel authentic, it will feel unfinished, primitive, underdesigned. And why would they prefer the raw version once the polished version becomes easier to inhabit? The internet will feel more real than the world when it becomes better at satisfying the ancient criteria by which human beings judge reality: presence, consequence, memory, emotion, status, belonging, and identity. If your job exists there, your friends gather there, your love begins there, your money moves there, your reputation survives there, your memories are stored there, your creative work lives there, your communities depend on it, and your future opportunities are decided by invisible systems running through it. Then the network is no longer a layer on top of life, it is life's nervous system, and nervous systems define reality more than landscapes do. There is also a darker reason the internet may win. The physical world cannot compete with infinite personalization. A forest is beautiful, but it does not know your name. A sunset is real, but it does not adapt to your insecurities. A crowded CAF is alive, but it does not rank every conversation by relevance to your inner wounds. The internet can stage intimacy on demand, it can place you inside worlds where every image is sharpened for impact, every voice is optimized for attachment, every recommendation is tuned for compulsion, every social reward is immediate, and every discomfort can be muted, filtered, blocked, or replaced. The more life trains people to expect frictionless emotional design, the more the ordinary world starts to feel unreal simply because it refuses to obey. There will still be defenders of the physical, and they will say true reality requires resistance, weight, weather, boredom, waiting, imperfection, bodies in space, unedited faces, and conversations that cannot be paused or deleted. They will say that what makes the world real is precisely the fact that it does not bend for us, that reality without resistance is only anesthesia, that a perfectly responsive environment may feel intimate while quietly hollowing out the soul. And they will not be wrong, but being right has never guaranteed cultural victory over convenience, stimulation, and emotional relief. Human beings do not move toward what is philosophically pure, they move toward what is easier to live inside, especially when the harder world feels cold, unequal, lonely, and exhausting. Once artificial companions arrive, the shift accelerates, because then the internet no longer just contains content, it contains presences, companions who speak, remember, soothe, flirt, collaborate, guide, comfort, entertain, and adapt. Some will fall in love there, some will build careers with digital partners, some will grieve with them, some will raise children alongside them, some will trust them more than relatives. And once a person's most emotionally intense moments begin happening in mediated space, the old argument that the internet is not real starts to sound almost childish, because pain is real, longing is real, humiliation is real, attachment is real, addiction is real, and all of these can now be generated, amplified, and sustained online with devastating force. The internet does not need atoms to become real in the human sense, it only needs consequence, and consequence is everywhere. Elections shift there, markets crash there, reputations die there, movements ignite there, mobs gather there, careers emerge there, beauty standards spread there, mental breakdowns deepen there, and entire generations learn what to fear and desire there. The network becomes the place where consensus is manufactured faster than streets can hold crowds, where symbols move faster than bodies, where narratives overpower events, and where seeing something online can matter more than touching something with your own hands. That is when the final inversion arrives. The body remains in the physical world, but the mind begins treating the network as the primary theater of existence. You still eat, sleep, age, and breathe offline, yet what feels meaningful, urgent, humiliating, romantic, aspirational, profitable, and historically important increasingly happens in a realm built from signals, feeds, archives, and simulations. In such a civilization, the internet will not feel like a separate place at all, it will feel like the layer that explains everything else, the layer that tells you what matters, who matters, what happened, what to desire, what to fear, what to buy, what to believe, what to remember, and who you are. So when will the internet feel more real than the world? Not when virtual reality becomes perfect, not when everyone lives in headsets, and not when physical life disappears. It will happen when digital space becomes more emotionally responsive than neighborhoods, more economically decisive than local labor, more socially consequential than face-to-face interaction, more memorable than unrecorded life, more trusted than institutions, more intimate than family, and more continuous than any single physical place. It will happen when the average person checks the network not to escape reality, but to confirm it, when a moment does not fully feel lived until it is uploaded, when an argument online matters more than silence at the dinner table, when losing access feels like losing part of the self, and when the world without digital interpretation begins to feel strangely incomplete, even mute. The internet will feel more real than the world on the day human beings stop asking whether online life is authentic, and start asking whether offline life is sufficient. That is the moment the old hierarchy collapses, because reality will no longer belong to what is physical, but to whatever most powerfully organizes human attention, consequence, memory, and desire. And the network is learning to organize all four. This was another day from the future. Until next time.